Hi, everybody. So today I want to talk a little bit about potty training. I get a lot of questions about how to handle various situations when it comes to potty training, and so I thought I would do a post on it. A lot of us hear potty training and just get this sense of dread, like, oh, it's this horrible event that we're going to have to deal with. And um, I just want to throw out there that it doesn't have to be that way, that potty training can be a skill that's developed over time, gradually, with no stress and no pressure, just like walking is or talking is. And so I wanted to just provide a different perspective on potty training and a few tips and strategies on how to make it more something that just happens instead of this one defining, 3-day weekend that we have to get things done. And so I just wanted to provide a different perspective. And so for those of you that know Mighty Oak and have followed my blog posts or checked out my website, this may be not new to you. But for those of you that don't know much about me, I am a therapist, and that's my background. I am a licensed therapist working, and I've worked with children and their families for over 13 years. And so a lot of what I do comes from that perspective. And so I offer a lot of parenting tips and strategies that really also keep in mind and focus on the relationship we have with our kids and nurturing that relationship so that we can develop um, and raise healthy, happy, well-adjusted children. And so when I talk about potty training, that's not much different to me. I still keep that in mind, and part of that is then taking into consideration what our children experience during potty training and what that experience is like for them, and how we as parents can guide our children to become potty trained while still respecting their process and how it feels to them. And this viewpoint on potty training really came from a lot of experiences I had in my clinical practice working with very young children that parents would bring to me because of toileting issues. So, children that withheld to the point where they would have to go to the doctor and have it taken care of medically because they were so backed up, or just had a lot of fear and anxiety around the bathroom, or you know, uncontrollable accidents, or in the inability to hold it without, all kinds of just bathrooming issues, whether they were having accidents or not going, and all kinds of variations of this. And so when I think about potty training, that is kind of in the back of my mind. And part of my thoughts on that are that if we can approach it as stress-free as possible, that we're not then bringing that anxiety onto our kids, and we're not bringing that pressure and that stress and that fear onto our children. And so taking into consideration what they experience during the potty training process, as well as what we experience, right? Our own sense of stress, or having to potty train so they can start school, or whatever the case may be, really honing all that in and changing our perspective on it so that our kids can master the skill in a really supportive, non-stressful way. So the first thing I feel like we need to think about is, what do our children experience when we potty train them, right? So now imagine you've been relieving yourself in your diapers for, the last year or 2 years, maybe even 3 years, depending on when, someone decided that it was time for you to use the restroom instead of this diaper. And that is a huge shift, right? Like, no warning. I see other people use the bathroom, but I was cool going to the bathroom in my diaper. And now those are gone and I have to do this thing, right? And so now I'm stuck home for 3 days and everyone's hovering over me, making me drink a lot of water and ushering me to the bathroom. And that system works. I know a lot of people that have potty trained with that scenario, and successfully. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way of doing things. But from my perspective, I feel like there's a slower, more gradual, more organic way that we can potty train. And so that's the part I'm introducing. And again, whatever method you choose that works best for your family works best for your family. I'm just going to provide you with maybe a different way of looking at it. So the first thing that's really important to do is to take time and introduce this concept of going to the bathroom. And now this can start really young, right? And this is a way we can set the foundation. We don't want to create shame around going to the bathroom, or embarrassment around going to the bathroom, or even make it a big deal, just something we do, right? So this starts when our children are really young and we're changing their diapers, and we want to avoid making a face when they poop or telling them how stinky it is, right? all of these things kind of get ingrained into becoming like, oh, this is something gross. And we don't want our children to think that. And so then we want to kind of move into introducing the bathroom to our children, let them explore it, let them sit on the toilet if they want to, when they're interested. Typically, round one is when kids will become a little more interested in the toilet and what you're doing in there. And, let them explore that. Let them be part of that. Talk about, body functions and, this is food that we don't need anymore being eliminated, or we need to, going to the bathroom is normal. You also want to introduce just the idea of when we go. So, okay, we're leaving the house. Does anyone need to use the bathroom? I'm going to go to the bathroom. Everyone goes to the bathroom before we leave the house. Or we go to the bathroom before bed, or we go to the bathroom before nap time. Just to really introduce what that looks like, but in just a very matter-of-fact way. So we also want to create a child-friendly bathroom or child-friendly access to a toilet. So this looks different for different families. So I have my oldest liked the little potties all over the place. My youngest is totally fine with a step stool and just using, a smaller toilet seat, but she's completely fine with that. So figure out what makes your child most comfortable. Some kids really like having a step stool under their feet. Some kids just like the little potties on the floor first because it's a little easier for them to get on and off of. You want to provide potties that are accessible to them. So it may mean more than one in your home. Try to keep them in the same place, because when we move them around, and sometimes we'll do that for convenience, right? We're going to be here, so we're going to move it here. We really just want to keep them in the same place. Our bathrooms don't move. We go to them and we find them, right? And so we want our children to be able to do the same. So, make it convenient. I know in my own home, I had step stools in every bathroom, so that no matter where my kids were, they could access it. And we had a couple of little potties. But your child may have a different temperament, may have different needs. Just kind of find out what works. But we want to make it child-friendly, right? We want step stools so they can wash their hands. We want to create as much independence around going to the bathroom as we can. So when our child has to go and they're old enough, they can just go and come out and feel free to explore that on their terms. We also want to make it fun. Now, this really depends on your child's temperament. And I know my oldest, we didn't need to do a great deal of entertaining. Every now and then she would ask for a story. But my youngest had better things to do than sit on the toilet. So she found that going in her diaper meant she could go to the bathroom and play. But using the restroom meant that she had to take a break from what she was doing to go to the bathroom. And so introducing books and toys may be helpful if it allows your child to sit there and just kind of tolerate using the restroom. Also, very helpful is creating diaper-free time for your child. Now, when you introduce this, is up to you. You can do the elimination communication kind of path, the diaper-free path, which you can introduce as young as birth, basically. Just allowing your child to experience going to the bathroom and experience getting wet, so that they have the feeling of that, they know that sensation, right? Not because they can control it. The reality is a really young child, or even maybe a 1-year-old, depending on your child's physical development and the development of that area and the muscle control and the ability to manage and control bowel movements, may not be there, right? That varies by child. Children develop that much like they develop other things at different speeds and rates. But having an accident and feeling that wet allows you to start to associate, I feel this, and then this thing happens, right? Then I get wet. And diapers are great. They're so absorbent that our kids can, fill them and never really feel that sensation of being wet. And so that natural sensation of, here's what I'm feeling internally, oh, now I'm wet, isn't happening. And so doing diaper-free time allows for that to happen. Now, the caveat here is that this means accidents, right? This means that, especially early on as your child's getting used to this, that they're going to have to get wet a couple of times to figure out that sensation. So we want to understand that that's part of it. I did diaper-free time really young with my children, so I would do like pads that they could sit on so it wouldn't get everywhere. As they got older and mobile, we just stuck to tile floor areas or did diaper free time in places that I didn't mind cleaning up. What that looks like for you is really up to you. My oldest did a lot of diaper free time because she was an only child for a little while and we could do that. My youngest, as many second children tend to get dragged around to everything because there's carpool and driving back and forth and all those things. And so she got less diaper free time just because it didn't fit into our lives. But whether you do 20 minutes a day, an hour a day, an hour once a week, anything to really allow your child to feel that sensation. It's better than nothing. Obviously, the more you can do it, the better. But really anything is really helpful. And so allowing this time really starts to allow that association to build. And an added benefit is that it helps with diaper rash because you're airing out the area and they're not sitting in a diaper. And so it's also really great for diaper rash issues, but that's kind of a secondary gain. Okay, so now we're doing diaper free time and our kids have accidents. What do we do? Or we're kind of further along in potty training, but our kids have accidents. How do we handle that? Well, what we want to make sure we do is we want to make sure we don't punish them. We don't want to shame or embarrass or punish our children. We want to just be very matter of fact about it. So, a statement of, looks like you're wet. Let's go change your clothes. And then help them change. Or if they're a little older and more self-sufficient, have them change. Clean it up, move on. It doesn't have to be a big deal, right? As our children's muscles develop and these associations develop, they will get the idea. But we really don't want to punish. We also don't want to force our children to sit on the toilet ever, right? We may want to say, we're leaving, it's time for school. Let's use the bathroom before we leave the house. And your child may say no. And this is one of those power struggles to avoid. It's okay. We've often have moments where it's like everyone used the bathroom before dinner and then they refuse and we're sitting through dinner and someone has to go to the bathroom. It is annoying. However, you don't want to create issues and power struggles around going to the bathroom because there's a few things your child can control. It's alleviating themselves and really where they're going to do it if they can't control when it's going to happen, but they can control where, I refuse to go to the bathroom or I'm going to do it in my diaper or all over your floor. And then eating. So we just really don't want to get a power struggle about this. We want to make it just something we do. So we don't ever want to force our child onto a toilet. That starts to build a negative association with the toilet and makes it a punishment. And so we don't want, it's just something we do. This shouldn't be a punishment. Also, we really want to be patient. If you're going to do it this way as a process, there's a lot of people that have successfully done the 3-day potty training method. And if you're going to do this process and start when your child's younger, again, I mentioned to you that I started with my kids doing diaper free when they were really young. Obviously, no expectations that they could hold it or wouldn't have accidents, but both of my children potty trained relatively young, but I wouldn't say it was quickly, right? Because we started this concept so early. So it's a longer process, but it's a less stressful one. And if you start this when your child's a little bit older, it may not take as long because, again, their ability to control themselves and to control their body functions is already improved just by age. So it may not take as long. And some of it also depends on your child's temperament. One of my kids was really all about potty training and really was easy and didn't like dirty diapers. And my other child was okay with dirty diapers and didn't really feel a need to use the restroom that much. And so it was a different amount of time for both, but they both got there. And that's the other component is regardless of what method you choose, your child will be potty trained. So unless there's a medical condition going on, every child will eventually use the restroom. And so sometimes we have to just step back a little and stop comparing ourselves to other parents or other people's children and just really focus on our child's needs, and what we can do to facilitate this and support them in this on their journey, in their process, right? And if you can stay focused on that, it'll help you. It'll also help you tweak things that don't work. My kids were terrified of public bathrooms. So the automatic flushing toilets and hand dryers were like the worst invention for potty training children because it's loud and scary. So we ended up leaving a potty in our car, in the trunk of my car. so that if I was out somewhere and one of my kids had to go to the bathroom and refused to go in a public bathroom because it was too scary for them, then we would run out to the car and use the bathroom in the car. So, there's all kinds of things you can tweak to really support your children, and it really just depends on what your kids need. And finally, you really want to also be prepared for potential setbacks. Now, there's all kinds of reasons kids may revert a little. So, changes in schedule, changes in life, remarriages, divorce, new siblings, starting school, all of these things can cause accidents to pick up a little bit. And really, the best way to handle them is the same way you did when you were potty training, and that is to just not make a big deal about it. You're wet, let's go change, move on. And your child will redirect and will kind of find their balance again and continue moving forward. These setbacks, if you don't make a huge deal about them and don't, start punishing or freaking out, really will resolve themselves with just a little bit of support as your child becomes accustomed to whatever the changes are that they're struggling with at that point in time. So I hope this helps, and I hope this gives you a different perspective on potty training in terms of a process rather than just one big event. Hopefully for those of you that try this out, this creates that stress-free potty training environment that you're looking for. And I look forward to hearing any feedback about your experience with this. Have a great day.